At what point does one decide to declare an official time of death to a relationship?
I'm gonna tell you about a woman whose heart is sunshine, whose body burned hot. I'm gonna tell you about a woman who's cold as tundra with some frozen eyes. I can tell by the way she moves.
Welcome to the C-Note Show, everyone, brought to you by Great Men Move Mountains. It's 11:03 here, Wednesday, July 8th. We're on the road. We're in the Grand Tetons, which we looked up is supposed to be French for teat, for actual nipples, but I don't think that's really true. I think it has to do with the Native Americans that were here prior. But we are here because we talk about relationship, how to have the three forms of confidence: behavioral, emotional, and spiritual as a man, as you're grounding as a man, and why you do this work every single day. And the only woman allowed in this show is Miss Cynthia Cruz, my partner in crime, my fiance. She's a professional coach like myself. We both met when we had left adjacent school systems. We were teachers. We worked with kids with emotional disabilities and physical and intellectual disabilities. And I worked with all the highest flying boys in the school, gang kids, kids that attacked teachers, kids that were high risk, probably about to be thrown out of the school. Those were all the kids that I worked with. And Cynthia and I, coincidentally, if you believe in such a thing, met when we left our schools, our adjacent school systems 4 years ago to start our own private practice. And we've never looked back. And, we love being here for you guys, for this tribe of men that wants to understand, what do I do when she says I want space, or she says the word divorce, or threatens divorce, or I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And I was motivated because this is what I found 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago at this point, with Steve Horseman, Good Guys to Great Men in Fort Collins, Colorado, because we both live very near Fort Collins. So I happened to be lucky enough to have that happen at the time when Steve Horseman had already started a local men's group. And so Cynthia and I this is our 12th week, right, Cynthia?
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
Yes.
So 12 weeks ago, we decided to bring this every single day, Monday through Friday, so that we could bring this to the tribe of men, you guys, of course, through COVID and through the turmoil that's going on in the world today. And also so that, we could bring this from anywhere in the world. And we're traveling right now the week after 4th of July through northwestern Wyoming. And today we're going to travel up through Yellowstone into southern Montana and stay in southern Montana tonight and for the next 3 nights before we head home. So that's a quick story of where we are right now. And Cynthia, again, is the only woman allowed on here, so she can give us her feminine perspective, her professional feedback from a non-biased point of view for you gentlemen that are on here live, Walters and Reuben and Randy. Love you guys so much, Patrick and Chris and Jason and Jack and Ian and Andy from Spain and Patrick from New Zealand, and everyone else from all around the country. We've got Iowa, we've got West Coast, we've got East Coast, we've got center of America, and we also have guys that call in from the South, from outside of Atlanta as well. Love you guys so much. So Cynthia, say hi to the gentlemen, and what are you appreciating about us being able to bring this on the road as well, for us and for them, please?
Hey, good morning and happy Wednesday to you. I'm so grateful not only to be here, but to have you be here. I know for many of you, not all over the world, but this is summer. And so you could be off on a boat right now or off on a mountain hike, and you being here speaks to my heart and my soul, because this to me is as important as wonderful adventure. This is an adventure in itself. And I'm deeply touched not only to be given a place in this tribe, but to be sitting here with you, and I can look over the tree line right now, and there's this incredible snow-topped mountain in front of me. And it is such a reminder of reverence and bigness and making a powerful place in the world. And so I get to see that, and then I get to see that right here. And it is, again, humbling and makes me grow and reminds me always to see with new eyes and to see how incredible you all are in front of me right now. So again, with much gratitude, I am here.
I love it. Thank you, Cynthia. Yeah. One thing that Cynthia and I do is we live this. We both came from other relationships. We met in our late 30s, and we live this every single day. And one thing we shared last night was a dream that we have. One thing to share about a dream, as Alison Armstrong would say, has nothing to do with practicality or the logistics of it. It has to do with just the emotion of it, right? And so then there's goals. Goals have to deal with practicality and actually being able to follow through and legitimately do something. And how do we do that? But dreams you share with one another just to share the emotion of the dream. And one thing that Cynthia shared with me is wanting to be able to travel anywhere in the world and bring the metaphor of the present moment, whatever the metaphor is within the present moment, offer us to help heal men within our tribe. And that's something that we're able to do here with you guys from the road. So we're so grateful for you. We still work on our own shit all the time. All the time. I've got another story that happened at the beach yesterday. You don't know I'm going to tell this story, but I've got something that deals with, I got up early this morning before the mosquitoes came out. It was still chilly, and was reading and putting some stuff away and reading Super Coach by Michael Neal. And it reminded me of something that happened at the beach yesterday, which beach is these like pebbles up along the mountain, Jackson Lake here in the Grand Tetons. I'll share that a little bit later. Are starting to rise, whether literally or figuratively right now, whether it's 5 a.m. in New Zealand. What was it? Glamping? Jack yesterday was talking to us about glamping. Apparently it's glamorous camping. I don't know if it's glamorous, but we brought some stuff and we found some Wi-Fi. Would you call it glamorous, camping?
Every time camping with you is glamorous.
Oh, look at that. I wasn't trying to set her up, but that was so nice. Every time I see you, it's glamorous. I should be saying that to you. What are you talking about? So we always start our show with some comedy. I've got some more comedy today. What's this one? Oh, yeah. Construction workers react to the song Wrecking Ball by, what is it, Miley Cyrus? Oh, my God. This one's...
You were acting that one out just the other day.
I was. I took all my clothes off and I was swinging on a wrecking ball. Yeah, just like Ian. Ian before the show was doing that as well. I don't want to say anything, but we saw you.
That's why it took up a couple of minutes to get on.
Yeah. Wanted to wait till Patrick and Ian both got their clothes back on. That's the pay-per-view, as Patrick would say. So we're going to start with some comedy, and then we dive into the shit. We've got posts from the forum as well, of course, today. Before I read the post, I want to go into the comedy right away so that I don't show it way too late in the show. And the theme of this week... Our theme of this week is healing spiritual wounds, and how you define spiritual in your world. It's interesting how we say, it's not religious, it's spiritual. I think we don't need to say that anymore. I think people understand that spirituality in general is something bigger than yourself, or how you source yourself without having the belief. You don't have to have proof of the thing that you source yourself with. I mean, for instance, metaphors have to deal with belief and their spiritual connection. So the theme of this week, healing spiritual wounds. And, I don't know what kind of spiritual wounds these construction workers are going to need to heal after they see this clip. But here we go, some comedy.
I don't care how good A-Rod is, he's still a scumbag.
Hey, what is this?
I came in like a wrecking ball.
Excuse me, ma'am, this is an active construction site. It is not safe.
Hey, look out! What is she doing?
I think it's a metaphor.
What?
A metaphor. See how we're demolishing the structure here? So too has her heart been demolished by the unkind terminus of a tragic romance.
Ain't that a simile?
No. A simile is more like a... You all get off of there!
You're not coming.
Whoa, hey, you are not licensed to ride around a construction equipment.
Hector, cut it! Can't you see there's a young lady blossoming into womanhood in the ball over here?
Is that my sledgehammer?
You don't get to lick my sledgehammer. Only I lick my sledgehammer. And maybe Tommy.
Hey, whoa.
Came in like a
You are not allowed on site unless you want a protective hard hat and protective gloves and pants. Pants would be good.
all I wanted was to break you.
Now, I can't tell if she's crying on account of her shattered innocence or just because of all the dust kicking up around here.
It's probably the dust for Goggles on, guys.
Goggles. Kid, trust me, you do not want to be writhing around sexily in a pile of rubble like that. There is a lot of rebar and broken glass.
You seem like a relatively intelligent young girl. I hate to see you relegate yourself to a mere sex object. Excuse me.
Sugar tits! Come and
We give her a lot of guff, but I gotta admit, she has made a lot of progress. She took out that entire wall.
And I learned that when the world breaks us, we can put ourselves back together again, stronger than before.
Yeah, she's gyrating. Uptown. Yeah, turns out she's not union.
You scumbag!
You try to get her!
I'm really glad we got rid of that scab girl. Hector!
Came in like a wrecking ball.
Hector's union, so bring in Hector. Miley's not union. Get her out of here. Only I get to lick my sledgehammer and maybe my friend over here. Oh, my goodness. Yes. So when's the last time that you licked my sledgehammer?
Yeah.
Come on. It's either you or Ian. Because he's the only picture I could see. Otherwise, everybody else chickened out and they turned their cameras on. It's weird. There's grunting, they're naked, or I don't know. Like, we've got a hell of a show coming for you today. She's just not going to reply to that one. We're going to keep going forward here. I'll pretend like that didn't happen. So here is our post. Oh, this is so fun. You guys are awesome. Here's our post from the forum. First of all, have you done your morning kingly plan? I want to point this out. We talk about this a lot on the show. The first 3 of them you can do in less than 5 minutes. You're going to get up and go sit on the toilet, and you're going to do your 1-sentence appreciation for the day. Number 2 is read something inspirational, which I already did this morning for about 45 minutes. And what do I know to be true? What do I know to be true? And what I know to be true is that I want to bring this somewhat embarrassing story from yesterday from Pebble Beach, not the actual Pebble Beach, but the beach that has pebbles. So I'm going to leave this first question up for the entire week this week, because I do believe this relates incredibly to spiritual wounds, meaning, what were our expectations in relationship from the day we got married or the day we met her until today? The question is, at what point does one decide to declare an official time of death to a relationship? And like I mentioned yesterday, don't kid yourself. She's thought of this question before too. If you're in a spot where, you're on this show because, like me, you didn't know what the hell was going on in your relationship. So in 2015, I found this work because it was a death of identity. We talked about this last night. I want to bring this to the guys. Men live their values as if it's the only set of strategic values that there is possible going on right now. We're the hunters in the world. We're going out for battle in the world. On our hero's journey, which is an external journey for us. It's out with our adventure and our battle, like I always say. And we go with the fucking strategy. It's like you can't stop in the middle of the battle or stop in the middle of the hunt and, loudly turn to the guy next to you and say, hey, should we change our strategy in the middle of the battle here? Like, you go forward with the strategy that you have until there's basically a death, either a literal death, or there's a death of your identity, an idealistic death, an ideological death of your strategy in life. And we talked about this again last night, like I said, is a man will go forward with his strategy until there's a death of the relationship. So there's you, there's her, and there's the third entity, the relationship. And so when the relationship feels either it's dead or she's declared it dead, or it's on life support, basically, that is when we as men really come to this work to try to find a new strategy for the way to do a relationship. And I'd love for you to share how a woman looks at relationship, or a woman looks at strategy in that way, or her values. So a man moves forward with his values and maybe changes 1 inch at a time or 1 degree at a time until maybe there's a death of the relationship, in which case we help me. Now I know that I don't know everything. I know that I need to really learn from the ground up. That's what I thought in 2015. So talk with me about, from a feminine point of view, about strategy and moving forward, and when there's change, in relationship, or with a man that she's in relationship with, or just the man across from her, in public even.
Sure. I love, Jeff, what you shared, and that idea that there's a set strategy, and that's like the pillar and the guidepost. That was such a learning experience to me to hear that, because I find that women and feminine energy, it's sure, we have strategy and anchor points, but certainly in relationship, the strategy is always shifting. Even if a woman's sitting on a first date across from a man, she's consistently gauging, how he's responding to her, how she's feeling, and it's like she's kind of moving into the space of what will, like that first date, what will charm and enchant him in the moment. Or if she's in a long-term relationship and there's been a lot of, painful things going on, what's going to cause change here? I think about, you were going to say, you're going to talk about being on the beach yesterday. And I feel like I was in that very feminine place on the beach because wasn't just like gonna lie on a towel and be still. You know, I'm constantly gauging, am I getting sunburned? Because I'm a pretty pale person. So I'm gonna go sit in the chair. And now I'm a little cold, so I'm gonna put on a shirt. And now I'm hungry, so I'm gonna grab something from the car. And this whole time, like, you were like calm on the towel.
Not moving on the towel.
And I was just like constantly like, what little edge do I need to move into here to deal with, you know, a little bit of anxiety of getting sunburned, of like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. Oh, how can I be comfortable again? So I think that's a really good metaphor for how she responds in relationship.
And this topic came up. So Dennis in our chat says, I put a death to my marriage. I knew it needed to be put down. Yeah, Dennis has a really interesting story. You guys that know him came to this work in a different way, of him wanting to be successful in the next relationship in his life. So he didn't find this when he was in the throes of, you know, the death of the old relationship. He found this because he wanted to be a phenomenal man in his next relationship. And as we talk about, and as you know, Dennis, that this work is both of those things. It's the best chance to save yourself, which is the best chance to save the relationship that you have with your current woman. And you're going to want version 2.0 of that relationship regardless. There is no resuscitating the old dead zombie of the old relationship. It's just a matter of, and we've had men on here yesterday, coming on and saying, realizing, wow, the relationship either died sooner than I thought, or it's time for me to put the version 1.0, you know, to death, and to consider that done so that there can be a delineation between version 1 and version 2. So that's something. And also that gives us space, guys, to learn what we're talking about, to learn a new, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. The applause in Zoom are funny. Thank you so much. And it's, so what I've learned is that we as men also need a delineation of time between version 1 and 2 so that we can heal, that we can turn our magnet a different direction and grow our own depth as a man within this work, within the 3 forms of confidence, using the tools that we have, using our free tools, the 45-minute audio book, the 10-day solve the number 1 cause of divorce, free stuff that we put out there. That's our heart in the world. So Cynthia, I'd love for you to share. So actually, before I jump over to our second question, I wanted to ask you to share about our post today. But so Reuben's got his hand up. Reuben, did you want to jump in and say hi or share something for us today? Can you unmute yourself? I know you're in the middle of grunting and working out, or supposedly. Yeah, there you go, buddy.
So I'm working out, and then my wife comes down, and all of a sudden she wants to work out at the same time.
Oh.
And we're with the in-laws, so the in-laws are watching the kids, and she goes, well, I got to go do this, and that, so, you know, when are you done, or can I work out instead of you? And normally the guy that I would be, nice guy, would be like, oh, sure, I'll stop, you can work out. And this time I said, is there a reason why we both can't work out at the same time? I mean, I'm out here, you can go inside and work out. And then she's like, she got an attitude, walked away. Finished working out while listening to the show, went upstairs, and she came over to me and said, like, you're really considerate of my time. And I looked at her and I was like, well, you never answered my question. Could we have both worked out at the same time? And then she said, no, my parents are doing things with the kids. And I was like, is that really the case? And then she just walked away. But I feel so empowered and so ecstatic that I didn't just allow her to, you know, run my life and stop exactly what I'm doing so that I can cater to her. She can manage her own life and find a way to you know, work out. I offered a great solution. She just didn't want to take it.
Yeah, Reuben, I love that. Let me ask you a follow-up question. Why did you handle it that way, or how did you decide to handle it that way? What was your personal value in that moment?
That, you know, I've been thinking about this for the last few days. You know, my time is precious. My time is no longer, you know, second hand to someone else's time. It's my fault. I put her on a pedestal. I was the one who, you know, catered to her, shut down everything else in my life. Could be just a rude awakening for her now that I'm going to put myself first. So, you know, I'm coming from a place that, you know, no longer will I sit to the sidelines. If I'm working out, I'm working out, you know. If it was vice versa, I would have been like, okay, let me go. I'll go find something else to do, or I'll go work out somewhere else. I'll figure it out. I'm no longer in my, the umbilical cord. I've chopped it off and I'm running.
Nice, man. I'm going to press pause on you for a second so we can talk about this. Good. So what I heard there is that your nut is you honor your time, that you won't put your time at the backseat of someone else just because of a whim, unless it's obviously right. Obviously, if it's an emergency or something like this, but you're now honoring your own time. In the past, you weren't honoring your time. I love that. I absolutely love that. Now, we could talk about, well, how else could we have said things? And it's not about that. I mean, I could definitely answer it, but that wasn't your question. You wanted to put up there that you love the way you're moving in the world of you honoring your own self now. And so, Cynthia, let me ask you for feedback on that. So when a man has decided, okay, these are the values I'm living by, and one of those is to honor my own time. In the past, I haven't. In the past, I've played second fiddle and just been a nice guy and abdicated everything in my life, push it to the side if someone else asked me for anything, especially for my time. And now I feel empowered, and now I'm honoring my own time. What do you see, when you see Reuben? And then let me ask you, I'm going to ask you kind of maybe a tough question. His wife then does the scoff and walk away, doesn't even answer, kind of not even really taking his question as serious. It's more like she thought he was brushing her off. Does she have maybe such a long entrenched habit of just if he doesn't immediately give her his way, that she's just like gonna walk off? Where do you think that comes from, and how do you see Reuben growing in his own self and what he shared?
It's a great question. Well, Reuben, I love hearing you say like you feel ecstatic, and that makes me think of feeling free and like off the binds and chains of someone else's expectations. And actually what's hitting me in this moment is, I'm sure there's some ingrained habitual response that his wife is giving, and it's done in that very feminine way. Like, I can make things change. I can move this strategy however I want by shaming, guilting, putting shoulds on someone else. Because again, that's how women can get each other to change and shift. I'm wondering if there's kind of a trigger point with Reuben's wife here with taking time for yourself, because she might be kind of in that martyrdom role of like, I never get time for myself. And I've even experienced like, if a man's like, I'm taking this time for myself, the woman in me who hasn't, really rested into like, I can take time for myself and kind of expect someone else to, you've got so much going on, let me like wrap around what you're doing, gets kind of like, well, how come they get to get time and I don't get to have time? So I think that is something that women really need to grow into in not a like hardcore masculine way, but in a more feminine way. And Reuben, your modeling of taking time for yourself and doing that with an open heart, and even inviting her into that space where you both are meeting your physical, spiritual needs through exercise in a combined way, is really powerful. And I really hope she can start to lean into that and learn from that, as opposed to being in kind of more martyrdom, like I never get time for myself type of deal.
Yeah, I love that. So you just his modeling can be a ice break, right? Breaking the wind, breaking the lead, waves for her to feel into that way of life too, is what I'm hearing. So to make it okay to think about. Yeah, go for it.
No, it's just the way she is, because I see it she does it to her mom, she does it to her dad, and she does it to me, and it's, she's very it's normally going to be like, well, oh yeah, you're right, you got to take the kid at 3 o'clock meeting, so yeah, let me just stop everything that I'm doing so you can work out, you can take a shower, and you can go. I should be 100% considerate of your time. and then I'll just stop what I'm doing on the dime and, go and then I'll just restart everything. Or, I thought I offered her a valid, I didn't argue with her. I threw her a valid option. You can go find, you could work out. I'm sure, you can ask your mother. And then when she came upstairs, she really dug in with it, tried to guilt me, like, oh, now not only are you're not spending time with your kids, like you're throwing that responsibility on my parents, right? Like you're real, like that's what from her saying what she was trying to show. And in the past, man, it worked like a miracle. It was amazing. I had me dancing around, but you know what? I ain't dancing anymore. I don't want to get too hardcore and just completely bulldozer. But I think I'm pretty good. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm giving her an option, and and I'm even questioning the truth of what she's saying, because her parents, my mother-in-law was hanging out with one of my sons, and turns out my father-in-law was hanging out with my other son. So it wasn't that they were doing something else. This was all about me, about her getting to do what she was going to do, and then she knows that I'm there, not babysitting, but watching my kids. It's kind of like the whole in general thing that I'm down here. I get to hang out with my family, and you're here still at that co-parenting. This is my stuff.
You're the babysitter bitch while we're here. Is that the intention, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what you're saying. Hold on. Sorry, I pressed pause, anybody. I was losing the sound a little bit. So let me jump in real fast for what you just said. So again, I want to delineate that you're grounding in your own value here. Okay, it's not about, like you just said, Reuben, it's not about me pushing back. It's not about being an asshole. It's, well, what is the guiding force in my life right now? What is the guiding value? And it's honoring my own time, right? And putting myself up to honor my own self, to honor my value in the world, okay? Cynthia talked about, leading in that way. And I'll say, Reuben, too, so there's the 3 phases of coaching, right? Stop, grow, and ask. And you're not yet to the ask phase. In the ask phase, if your question was, well, how can I dance and draw her out more, draw her femininity out more? How can I bring more passion into the situation? Or how can I ask her to actually work out with me? That's a different question. Yeah, that's a different question after you've nailed your values, because this is what you're doing. You're in grow, Reuben. You're in stop and you're in grow. So you're nailing your own values and modeling for her without all these words. Because the words, asking and talking aren't going to do anything right now until you've stopped messing up and then you've grounded yourself for a good amount of time. And that's what you're doing. So I have no complaints at all or anything like that about what you did or what you said, as long as it's grounded in your values of what you decided that's best for you and the relationship, and what you're doing is best for those things. They're not to placate her shaming, guilt-laden self, especially if that's what she's doing just as a general in life. So I love the way that you handled it, Reuben. That's awesome. I'm going to pause on you, buddy. We're going to keep going. So Dennis raised his hand, and then I'd love for Cynthia to honor the chat as well. So I believe Dennis posted in the chat. And Dennis, if you unmute yourself, what did you see that you wanted to honor in our chat, please, Cynthia?
Well, I'm looking forward to what Dennis has to share. I really appreciate, Dennis, you really spoke about, how the feminine tests your nuts, your values, your stake in the sand. And Andy recommended a great book. I've not read this book. It's called What Women Want When They Test Men.
Oh, it's an audiobook by Bruce. So guys, that one's by Bruce Bryan. And I think it's only an audiobook. It's really good stuff.
Jeff, it's available in paperback.
Oh, it's got a paperback too? Okay, great. I love the audio as well. Yeah, good. So Andy recommended that?
Yes, and I also love, Hans had put in, Hans, I love this. You're kind of differentiating your like version 1 of your relationship with your wife. And you said after kids 2 and 5 began, like version 2, and then you're talking about version 3, and then you were even referencing like, okay, version 6 of our relationship. And I really appreciate that growth mindset, and it very much resonates with me about not only the wonderfulness that relationship can become new in any moment, but just the humility and understanding that we go through all these versions, and each version is asking it asks me to become a newer, better part of myself. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Dennis, please.
Well, Cynthia gave me an aha moment. Now I know what my ex is doing to my daughter. She's trying to force my daughter to make a change, and my daughter's fighting her back. And
can you give us an example?
Well, my ex has been trying for a number of months to get my daughter to go against me. And my daughter comes, whenever there's a problem with my ex, my daughter comes running back to the safety and security of her father. Okay? My ex, when Cynthia said what she said about the changing dynamic in the energy to make another woman change, that was the aha. Because my wife, my soon-to-be ex, is trying to change my daughter's view on a lot of things. Namely, my ex's dating and throwing. Cynthia knows the background story. My ex has tried over the last 6 months to shove her dating every time she gets a man down my daughter's throat. So my daughter has fought. I, on the other hand, as Cynthia knows in my background, I have been in a relationship long before I left the marriage, and I haven't done that. I have brought it on gradually. And I won't let her meet the person that's in my relationship until I have time to get into the relationship with her. And then it could be another year before my daughter meets the woman that I'm having a relationship with. But the aha moment is my ex can no longer direct it to me, because I put up the wall and I said, no, we're done. You want to talk to me through the lawyers. So she has nobody to go after anymore, any male.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's now going after my daughter. That was the aha for me.
I hear you. Thank you, Dennis. I want to ask Cynthia a question about this. I'm going to press pause on you. So Dennis, in my estimation, is talking about family systems, right? The family system, habitual patterns that his now ex, the mother of his daughter, is now continuing to act out with his daughter, right? So let me ask for Dennis and for the other men that are in this situation, which, by the way, co-parenting guys, I've said this before in the show that my ex said, I'm not interested in co-parenting with you at all. I'm going to do whatever I want, which was, let him play Xbox all night long and be his friend and not be his parent. So I was like the asshole parent for at least the first year because I'm the one that had boundaries. So I definitely know where Dennis is coming from as far as she's doing this kind of behind the back stuff, or a way that I certainly, Dennis certainly doesn't approve of, and I certainly wouldn't approve of. So from Dennis's point of view, how can he best support, I believe his now teenage daughter?
No, my daughter's 23, Jeff.
Oh, 23. Okay. So let's say teenage into adulthood is different than a child. So thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it. How can he best support, or any of us men that are in that spot where she's parenting in a different way, trying to get her to change is not the way to go about it, right? So how can we as men best move forward to support our children in that scenario?
Oh my gosh, that makes my heart ache a little bit, because that's such a space to hold for the people in your life, the daughters and the sons that you have. Gosh, hearing Dennis's story, and I can feel his ex's anxiety and lack of feeling in control, lack of feeling in power. And so, she's absolutely triangulating her daughter to, one, decrease her anxiety, two, to feel in control, to feel like she does have some way to affect things. And to also, it feels like she's kind of trying to, how squirrels collect nuts. It's kind of like she's trying to collect tribe and safety. And, as long as my daughter's in my corner, I'm going to be okay. And I'm sure, I know, Dennis, you feel deeply, you feel the systems of things. I can only imagine your daughter is, just like you. And so I'm sure she feels all this, even if she doesn't verbally know how to talk about it or emotionally how to process it. So I would invite dads in that situation just to invite daughters into that conversation. Like, oh, you know, how does that feel to you when your mother says this? Or how does that feel to you when I say this? What is that like for you in your experience, you seeing me in a new life? And would you feel pressured from either sides of this situation? Because really we're trying to allow our children that freedom to know that wherever they stand, whatever mess is going on around them, that they are safe and they're connected to all their parents, and that they do not have to carry the burden of anyone else.
So to ask her about experience, because a woman is, number one, Alison Armstrong would say, is concerned about the experience of life.
Yeah.
So as a father, ask your daughter about her experience of how things are going and happening.
Yeah.
Without trying to fix, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. And so let me add on top of that, Dennis, and for every man, including this is me talking to myself, 6 years ago, which is to allow yourself to share a story of failure or confusion. So if I were to put a number on it, I would say 1 out of 10. If 1 out of 10 times I'm talking with my now son, he's 16, my son is now 16, 1 out of 10 times I think about, maybe I should tell a story of me not succeeding. Maybe I should tell a story about how I felt troubled or confused or hurt by something, so that I can model that I'm not pretending to be perfect. My son, when my ex and his mom and I split up, the next year he was so mad at me, like with me and mad at me, just mad at the world. And one thing he told me during that time is that he thought that I think that I'm perfect. He's like, you think you're perfect. Now, one, he's a child and saying those things, and I get it. And yet there is some truth into what he's expressing to me. His experience is that he's expressing to me is that it seems like I'm infallible. And while I could play the hero, like, oh, that's right, I'm I'm hero dad or whatever other bullshit that isn't real, that's not going to help him feel connected to me. It's not going to help him grow into be a integrated, solid, calm, confident man, because he's going to think something's wrong with him if he has any kind of faults, if dad's perfect. And I had to realize, okay, maybe 1 out of 10 times I've got to bring a story of stumbling to him. And so, Dennis, that's I would say that I'm just going to put that on the table for you and for every man here, regardless of whether you're, still together or not, just in fatherhood. I've had to learn that. I've read, 100 books on fatherhood and child psychology and everything professionally because of what I did in the school system, and also because I wanted to learn how to be a better father for my own son. So, Dennis, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. If you check so Dennis asked in the chat, any good books on listening? Yes, I've got a phenomenal one, and I'm not sure if this one is only an audio book, only on Audible. It's called I Hear You by Michael Sorensen. I Hear You by Michael Sorensen. There's that one. That one is super, super good. It's about, again, 3.5 hours long or so, if I remember correctly. So it's a little shorter. It's not too cumbersome, and it's got phenomenal examples of exactly how to have more grounded, honoring conversations with the woman. So as Cynthia and I would say, there's level 1, 2, 3, and level 3 is the bottom drawer emotions, a lot of old pain and wounds and trauma from the past. This book talks a lot about, I'd say, level 1 and like level 1.5 or level 1 and 2, right? So a lot of great stuff when you're in the grow phase, especially when you're in the stop fucking up and you're in the grow phase. Once you start to get into level 3 of ask and bottom drawer emotions, those are things that you and I, Cynthia, talk more deeply about on this show, and how to heal those old traumas. And that's our theme of this week, is how to heal spiritual wounds. Yeah, Han says the Sorensen book. Yeah. And then I think it's SEN, but yeah, I Hear You is the book. So let me jump back to our other post of today. I do have a clip today from Mark Manson. It's the end of a clip I showed last week. So I have not shown this on the show yet. It has to deal with success and, well, and those of you that know Mark Manson, he's kind of cynical. And so he's never going to say, you're going to be happy all the time. He's actually like, well, let's have some realistic points of views on happiness. But before I get to that, I want to read this other post. This is from a gentleman who appreciated being called out for some of the little boy shit that he was in. He posted on the forum, he brought it to the men, and he appreciated that other men held him accountable to the values that he says that he believes in. And that's why we're here, guys. We're Spartans in the war, having our shield up for the man next to us as well, and pulling each other up out of the mud when we need to. In this post, this man says, I may have overreacted. I was rightly upset at myself yesterday for getting upset. So it's one of those, I was upset about being upset. And it can be a downward spiral. So that's why this man brought it to the forum and to the men to stop that downward spiral. I know you guys are here to do that every single day. And that's why you post in our private Facebook forum and you chat with each other here live on the show. I love it so much. This man says, I have been so good and so much improved at not reacting to my wife, getting upset or losing my temper. So when I got a little mad, I got even more upset than anything at myself. In retrospect, I did not get that angry, say anything mean, or really even raise my voice much. I did better, not perfect, but better. My wife was fine this morning, very sweet and nice. She even said she hopes we have better luck tonight and that she misses me. Wow, like when Cynthia was reading this out loud to me before the show, Cynthia chose this from our forum. Thank you, Cynthia. When he said, his wife said she hopes we have better luck tonight and that she misses me, I said, wow, out loud. Like, this man must be kicking ass in his work for his wife to say that and that, to connect with him verbally like that and say she looks forward to tonight. So good. He goes on to say, lessons learned. Don't expect perfection from yourself, but improvement does pay off, or at least it probably will. Well, yeah, we have to have that mindset, right? We have to believe that. Otherwise, why are we here? Like that's the spiritual belief and the spiritual grounding of our sacred masculine, is to believe we can be tethered in improvements and positivity in the present moment. Yeah, so keep at it, he says. And he says, overreaction takes many forms, including overreacting to your own lack of perfection. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's another lesson learned. Here's another lesson learned. Likewise, our lack of sex these last few days really just is part of having small kids. Be patient and keep working on yourself. I need to keep working on not being outcome dependent or oversensitive to what I think my wife's mood is. The last lesson learned here is I can always count on you guys. Oh my gosh, I love this absolutely so much. Don't expect perfection from yourself. Keep going. Overreaction takes on many forms, including overreacting within your own self. Realize that having small kids and having kids, or life in general, guys, is going to throw us curveballs. Be patient and don't be outcome dependent or too sensitive or overly sensitive on your wife's mood. I love that so much. I'd love for you to give feedback on, first of all, I want to play devil's advocate a little bit. And I think you guys probably heard this. He hedges quite a bit in the first part of the post, right? Which is okay. I'm not I'm not saying that I'm perfect or I didn't do that in the past, because I certainly did hedge in the past. So when it's like, oh, I didn't get too mad. Like, oh, I didn't do too bad, which is true, right? You're doing better. That's awesome. And let me ask you, from a woman's point of view, a man plays for points, right? Something you and I talk about. A man plays for points. So it's like, well, maybe I didn't shoot a 3-pointer, but I got a free throw. And so like, I did pretty good. Is that a thing in a woman's world? Does it depend on the woman? Can she recognize when he's doing better? Like, obviously the outcome of her coming to him and saying, oh, I hope we connect tonight, like, that's awesome, of course, right?
Yeah.
But that's the outcome. So if we didn't know what the outcome was and he just said, oh, I'm doing better and I'm angry with myself. So we know this man, we know he's doing his work, fucking kudos. But I'm curious, does it depend on the woman if she recognizes small changes or if he's doing better? Does the woman recognize those things, or is there sort of a precipice where beyond which she maybe doesn't give him as much credit? Talk with us about that.
Gosh, that's an amazing question. And I had the vision in my mind of, I'm sure you with kids can relate to that, where you have like something posted on the refrigerator and, the chores done. So there's the check mark. I think a woman has to learn and practice the concept of points. And to like her spiritual healing and development is to understand that, okay, so in her world, other women, she might have like this basket and the other women add points in, but at any moment, that woman could just like take them away and go. And so she doesn't trust a lot in like keeping the little points. Whereas there's something incredible about men where it's like the commitment and the adding to the basket is like, we're not taking that away. We're like adding until like the top of the basket is full. So I think she has to learn that, you're not just going to come and like, toss the basket aside once you start adding in that. So she does need to learn that. Because like in her world, more at a level 1 unknowing phase, it's kind of like the basket's full or empty, or halfway full, but can always be emptied.
So that's really enlightening, and my eyebrows went up when you were explaining that. So the man is now thinking, how the fuck do I help her learn that I play by points, right? So, I mean, I could guess, and what you're also talking about is modeling for her so that she knows her points, if you will. So him honoring her, him holding her in high regard, him appreciating her verbally and with his energy. Yeah. But so I want to hear what you have to say. We've got to set you up here. So how can we as men help her learn that we play for points?
So I think this is where like metaphor comes in, where it's like, honey, our relationship is like this basket that we're holding between us. And as we're both learning and growing, I'm coming and I'm adding to the basket. And that, that's not going to be toppled over or thrown away. And I know there's still a lot of space to fill up before the basket is full, but that's my purpose and my vision with what I'm holding between us. I think that's a really whatever the metaphor happens to be for you in your relationship. But then that gets away from, well, I did this, and then her being like, well, blah, 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 and you never did this before. And, that kind of semantics, it really takes it to another level, a more healing spiritual level between you two.
So what I hear you describing, and so I want to put a disclaimer on what Cynthia just said. What she's talking about here is when you're in the ask phase, when you're like in a level 3 kind of relationship. And so you want to honor the chat and read the chat while I'm catching up.
Yeah.
So gentlemen, what she just said about teaching her, giving her a metaphor about points and in the basket, you're not going to do that. If I was coaching you right now, I would say, hey, we're going to do that in phase 3 when you start to ask for what you want, which is generally about 4 months in of my one-on-one coaching with the men, just to be blunt with you. Okay, the first month is stop. The first month or 2 is stop, and then it gets into grow yourself, grow the things that we teach here, the things that you guys have learned in the books that we're talking about. If you're not at least 10 books in, I'm just gonna be blunt here, guys. If you're not 10 books in, you shouldn't be asking for shit. Okay, you should be modeling for your own self, modeling for people around you, growing your own confidence within yourself, journaling, noticing, being tethered to your emotional train, understanding, being able to observe what your emotions are, what are the physiological representations in your body for your emotions. If you don't know exactly what I just said, all those things, you're not in ask phase yet, you're not in phase 3. Now, those of you that are, when you get there, the metaphor of, hey, in the basket, and I want to have relationship like this. This is how I value relationship, that we have to choose relationship, and that in choosing relationship, there's a basket that, I'm honoring you and putting points into. Okay. Now, men, you'll hear, don't do it for brownie points. You're not doing it hoping she gives you points. Okay. That's you hoping for a covert contract she gives you points. That's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about in deep relationship, phase 3, when you're both growing the value within the relationship, is you can have this understanding that she knows what rewards you because she's choosing relationship. And I know that women live off of experience, so I can honor the experience of relationship more purposefully, more intensely, because I'm choosing relationship and I understand that. So think about that, guys. If I know she lives for experience and she knows that I live for like points, if you will, to get credit for, to be honored, to be revered. Think about the amazing ability of 1 + 1 = a million when that starts to happen, right? So if you'd honor our chat, I'd appreciate it. I do want to show this 2-minute clip from Mark Manson here in a moment. We're approaching the end of the show. But yeah, please honor our chat.
Sure. Thank you. So Andy said, does she see the changes but find it hard to believe them because of the lack of trust and connection with her man? And so needs time to assimilate them. I actually think there's 2 ways to view the basket. Andy, thank you for that question. And one is about trust, and that yes, that has to do with things that have come before in their relationship, and it just comes also with that. I believe the way women are wired, where because they don't have like the set strategy, and they know that they're always acting from that, or every other woman has their own set strategy. It's more of a, who's going to topple my basket in the moment type of thing. So she's just naturally searching for a deeper level of trust, a learning from the masculine energy of how to truly to trust other, people in her life. And there's also the needing to assimilate. Can she practice receiving the incredible gold that you're giving? And I even, have to practice that. When you add things to my basket that are so incredibly big and grand and masculine energy, that's new to me. It's like receive the rock that you've put in, the point that you've given, because it's so big that I have to take a couple moments, if not days, to go, this is amazing, and to really allow that to go in.
So what I'm also hearing is it might take some time for that to affect you, and you might go through different emotions within a couple of days of how that rock has been thrown into the pond and the ripples, and how the ripples hit the shore.
Yeah.
But it might take some time. And so for me as a man to not judge that immediately by your immediate reaction, right? Is to breathe into myself, be present with my own self and the experience, and allow you to have your experience.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. Well, with our time today, so we talked about the beach. I have a section from the book Super Coach from Michael Neal that I wanted to share in relation to the story I wanted to tell. It has to deal with a little boy who jumped his foot right on my towel on purpose, right? We laid out our space, and I want to do that cliffhanger for that and talk about how I handled that yesterday. It was good, not the best. It was good. I think it was great. It takes a village, I think it was good. And I probably could have handled it in a more fun way. And I think I could have taught the same lesson in a little bit more fun way. And I want to share some more of that tomorrow in relation to Michael Neal's section from Super Coach. So I'll cliffhanger that. So Cynthia, if you could honor all of our men, and then I'll share that 2 minutes from Mark Manson on success and perspective in the world, and how to have perspective even on success and happiness in a way where we can feel more contented on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, thank you. I am just so grateful for everyone who is here today. Walters, you were on right in the beginning. Tim, it's so great to have you part of this tribe. Rob, Reuben, I appreciate you and the tiger energy you always bring. And Randy is here. Randy, I thank you. Randy just posted, we're going to Montana next, and offering ways that we can go listen to the wolves. Thank you so much for dropping that magic into this basket. I really appreciate that. And Chris, thank you for being here. Patrick, Jason is here. Jason, Ian, Harry, I really appreciated. There's so many people have been posting in the chat and supporting the other gentlemen. And I noticed some of your comments, you and Dennis, in the thing that we actually read today from one of the gentlemen. Thank you so much for doing that. And Hans, it sounds like you're reading or listening to Celebrating Partnership by Alison Armstrong. That's so amazing. I'm so grateful to know that. And Dave is here again. Dave, it's so, again, good to have you as part of this tribe. Andy is here. And thank you so much. This is a deep pleasure to not only see your faces, but your names, and to have your input and perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate it. This has been the C Note Show, brought to you by Great Men Move Mountains. That's what it is, Great Men Move Mountains. So brought to you by Great Men Move Mountains and greatmenmovemountains.com. If you want to learn about our one-on-one coaching, which I referred to today, if you want to have, private kick-ass, the most powerful way to move you forward as fast as possible, my book is, 90% full at this point. So when I get back from vacation, I'd love to talk with you about it and see when I can bring you on. Otherwise, we have Cynthia does one-on-one coaching as well, and Andy Malloy and Jason Bradbury as well are our coaches in the forum as well. So if I'm not able to get to you right away, Andy and Jason and Cynthia can help as well. So we're always here for you. If you want to learn about our new small group coaching that's powerful, economical, and it's all of the tools we use that I use within a one-on-one in a group format as well, go to greatmenmovemountains.com/relaunch. And for the one-on-one, it was greatmenmovemountains.com/contact to get in contact with me directly. Love you guys so much. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mountain, like every Monday through Friday. 2 minutes from Mark Manson on perspective, how to be happy and contented, even with success. There we go, right now.
But what I'm trying to do is, instead of getting attached to that and believing that that will solve whatever anxiety or stress that I'm feeling, I just try to remember that is just it's a part of the game that my brain is playing with itself. Your mind is always dangling this carrot in front of your face, and even if you catch the carrot, they'll just drop another one a little bit further out. And that is kind of human progress in a nutshell. This sounds so fucking cynical and dark, but I mean, it's true. And I think the only way you kind of come to peace with that is you get comfortable with it. You just understand there's always going to be a carrot. Because I think as soon as there's not a carrot, you're not happy. You actually become depressed. You don't know what to do with yourself anymore. So the question is what is the solution to this? And I guess my answer is, depends what direction is your treadmill facing? So if you're always going to be stuck at a 7 at running towards something, you might as well run towards something that's worthwhile and important. Happiness isn't feeling good. Happiness is finding something more important than feeling good. It's finding something that you're willing to be dissatisfied for. If you think about raising a kid, or helping out a family member who's on hard times, or earning your degree, doing something very difficult, these are all things that aren't necessarily pleasurable. You're not necessarily happy doing them, but they're worthwhile. And the fact that they're worthwhile means that you never regret the effort. One thing we all tend to do, we assume that that just because something feels good, it is good, or just because something feels bad, it is bad. And that's not the case. You need to be able to look at a situation and disregard how it makes you feel and ask yourself if it's still worth doing. And I think the best things in life, almost as a rule, are generally not very pleasant. And so it's, in a weird way, happiness becomes more about pain and struggle than it is actually finding a way to feel good all the time.
Happiness is about perspective on the pain and the struggle, meaning you will have pain and struggle in life. That's the one constant is there, that life does have conflict, and that's okay. Right? Embracing that as a normal part of life, and then shifting your spiritual mindset, shifting your perspective is within your control. I love that so much. Thanks for being here, Cynthia.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Whose heart is sunshine, whose body burn hot. I'ma tell you about a woman who's cold as tundra with some frozen eyes. I can tell by the way she moves.